my channel. I'm going to do another gentle whisper reading, and this is from the Standard Horse and Stock book published in 1902. I'm going to be reading about pianofortes. Pianofortes, their selection and care. The selection of a piano. This one involves more points than is generally supposed. The first point for consideration is what use is to be made of the instrument. Is it to be used for educational purposes? If so, the best is always the cheapest. This is emphatically true in the point of the development of the ear, for no ear can be perfectly developed unless it uniformly hears good tones. Then, the action of an inferior instrument is a constant check to any facility in the education of the fingers. This is abundantly illustrated in the case of an artist's performance on a grand, a square, or an upright piano, the use of the first affording an ease of execution that a square or upright can never give, or only to a limited extent. Last, but by no means a small consideration, is the fact that a piano in constant use needs to be of the very best quality in every particular to stand the demands made upon it. Desiderata. Having taken these points into consideration, then we find that a piano for study should be of the purest tone for the development of the ear, of superior action for facility in execution, and the less complicated in construction, the surer of standing the wear of time. The grand. Only in the grand pianos are found what is wanted. The mechanism is the least complicated. The double repeating action is of inestimable advantage to the player, as is also the movable action, which makes beautiful effects in soft playing possible, and a depth of power that can be brought out from neither a square nor an upright. The baby grand. The small-sized grand piano, now so much manufactured, contains all the good qualities of the large size and is well adapted to most parlors. Avoid the upright. To return to the subject of selection, if the piano to be selected is not for a student, some of the requirements then necessary may be set aside. Many square pianos will supply all that is demanded of them in houses where they are only used occasionally. Upright pianos, except under exceptional circumstances, should not be bought. In many cases, the smallness of rooms influences purchasers to choose an upright, which, if the comparative merits of pianos were understood, could not be the case. A grand piano will outlast 2 squares or 3 uprights. Well, I didn't know that. But then again, this book was published in 1902, so maybe there have been improvements to upright pianos nowadays. Let's go on and see why they say this. The reason why. It may be asked, why is not an upright piano as good as a grand or square? The answer is that the mechanism in an upright is so complicated that it is certain to get out of order very easily and is not so readily repaired as a less intricate instrument. It also gets out of tune quickly other styles of pianos. This is the abundant reason why upright pianos should never be taken to the country unless good tuners and regulators are at hand. How interesting. Examine only from good makers. In selecting a piano, only well-known and reliable houses should be visited. To the excellence of an instrument, good materials are indispensable. Small and poor manufacturers are less likely to keep a stock of wood on hand that is thoroughly seasoned, for it takes fully 3 years for this process. Never choose a piano for sweetness or sparkle and brilliancy, as it will soon grow thin and wiry. A large, powerful tone contains all possibilities. Tuning. Every piano should be tuned at least 4 times a year, and when new, every 6 weeks for the first year. A piano not kept in tune soon loses its beauty of tone and is almost impossible to bring it back. The position of a piano in the room should be where the temperature is the most even, as pianos feel sudden heat or cold acutely. Keeping the case polished. The case of a piano may be as satisfactorily polished by a strong woman as by a professional polisher. Wring a soft cloth out of as hot water as the hand will bear. Wash a small portion of the surface and polish immediately with a chamois. The water should be changed frequently, and any bruise may be rubbed with a little furniture oil. Hints on preservation. If the piano is to remain in good order for many years, good care must be taken of it. The instrument should be closed when not in use, in order to prevent the accumulation of dust, pins, etc., on the soundboard. However, it must not be left closed for a period of several months or longer, but be opened occasionally and the daylight allowed to strike the keys, or else the ivory may turn yellow. I did not know that. I knew ivory can turn yellow, but that the daylight would help. Something new learned every day. We hope, don't we? Any hard substance, no matter how small, dropped inside of the piano will cause a rattling, jarring noise. In every case, an India rubber or cloth cover should protect the instrument from bruises and scratches. The piano should not be placed in a damp room or left open in a draft of air. Dampness is the most dangerous enemy, causing the strings and tuning pins to rust. The cloth used in the construction of the keys of action to swell, whereby the mechanism will move sluggishly or often stick altogether. Continued dampness will also injuriously affect the varnish by swelling the wood of the outside case. It will also swell and raise the soft fibers of the sounding board, thereby forming ridges, which by the experienced observer are mistaken for cracks, while really affording the best proof of excellent, well-seasoned material. All this occurs chiefly in the summer season, and the best pianos, made of the most thoroughly seasoned material, are necessarily the most affected by dampness, the absorption being more rapid. Extreme heat is scarcely less injurious. The piano should not be placed very near or in an open fire or a heated stove, nor over or close to the hot air from furnaces now in general use. Moths are very destructive to the cloth and felt used in the piano, and may be kept out of it by placing a lump of camphor. I wonder if is camphor the name for mothballs. Well, they may be by placing a lump of camphor wrapped in soft paper in the inside corner, care being taken to renew it from time to time. Manufacture of pianos. Great improvements effected by American ingenuity. The fact that American pianos are now and have been for the last 20 years, remember this book was published in 1902, the last 20 years superior to those made in Europe is undisputed, and the great pianists of the world use them with high satisfaction, not only during their visits to this country, but at their own homes. That no essential improvements in piano making have been made by European manufacturers during the last 30 years was evident at the Paris exhibitions of 1867 and 1878, when the pianos exhibited by Europeans could not compare with American products. A reporter of an evening paper who had occasion to visit several pianoforte manufacturers lately was shown some of the most remarkable improvements since the Paris exhibition of 1867, when, as several of our makers have several times informed the public, the American instruments were awarded the highest honors at the judge's disposal. The rest plank. One of the improvements upon which great stress is laid is quite recent, having been in use for less than a year, and consists in including in the iron frame the rest plank, the piece of timber into which the tuning pins are inserted. This was attempted years ago, but it was thought that the sound of the piano was injured. The pins now run through the iron rest plank and into the wooden rest plank beneath, the result being that the pins are less liable to move owing to the occasional warping of the wood. The iron frame, as everyone knows, of course, was only resorted to when the immense tension of the strings in large pianos made wooden bracing out of the question. The pulling strain in a grand piano amounts to about 12 tons. Such a strain eventually warps any kind of wooden framework. The Americans were the first to introduce the iron frame cast in one piece. Sonority and tone. Since the adoption of the iron frame made absolutely necessary by the sudden variations of temperature in this climate, the constant aim of all American manufacturers has been to obtain sonority and good tone. Several of the most important improvements of the last 10 years have related to increased sonority. One of the new methods employed is to make the outward case of the piano one continuous piece of bent wood instead of in several pieces, thus giving a more continuous tone. Another important invention, and the cause of several lawsuits, is to allow the cast iron frame to rest upon a number of wooden dowel pins let into the framework of the piano and projecting only a strings off the woodwork bracing under the frame. The use of these dowel pins to keep the frame entirely separate is apparently a small matter and costs only a trifle, but one of the most important patent suits was concerning this invention. And a piano of a rival maker, who denied having used it, was chopped to pieces in court by the owner of the patents in order to show that it had been used. The piano was ruined, but the suit was won. Overstringing. Another vast improvement of the last 20 years, now used by all makers, is the overstringing of the heaviest strings. In large pianos, extending 7 octaves or more, the sounding board will have to be larger than will be practical to allow the strings to be stretched side by side as in the old pianos, with their few octaves. The old-fashioned pianos having only 6 octaves or less, as the effective part of the sounding board is toward its heart or center. A dozen of the lower strings are placed half an inch higher than the other strings and allowed to cross the sounding board above them, thus bringing the whole mass of strings over the effective parts of the sounding board. Singing tone. The result of a score of improvements in increasing the sonority of the iron frame pianos, many of which improvements cannot be described without drawings and long technical explanations, is that whereas a string, when struck upon a good piano, now vibrates audibly for nearly half a minute, a quarter of a minute was the former extent of the vibration. One of the best tests of a good piano, so far as sonority is concerned, is to strike a note firmly and count the seconds during which the vibrations are audible, holding the key down all the time, of course. The improvements in the action of pianos since the Paris exhibition of 1867 have been the introduction of metallic rods filled with wood for supporting the action in place of the wooden bars in former use. The metal rods make the action of the whole piano uniform, one key requiring just as much force to press it as another, and the weather not affecting the ease with which the action works. Now, I'm not sure what this part is just about it is, okay. There was a little paragraph at the end called Olebull, Olebull, and I wasn't sure it was talking about something else, but it looks like it's still part of the piano section, so I'm going to add it in at this end. In the interesting memoir of Ole Bull by his wife, lately published, reference is made to his attempts to introduce into piano building the same principles on which a good violin is constructed and by which it improves with age. An old, well-made violin, well played, learns more and more to vibrate uniformly. Old Bull himself had a newer sounding post in an old violin and could not get the tone he wanted till the accidental smashing of an old double bass afforded him the wood that had learned to vibrate, out of which to make a new sounding post. Why, he said, should a violin wear better and a piano wear out? If he could only make the frame of a piano that should behave as his violin, and mellow, not thin with age, Norwegian lavished his own time and money, and although John Ericsson, hearing of his laudable efforts, joined him, the problem was not wrought out in old Bill's lifetime, nor has it been since his death. Let us hope that if we, not we, then our children or our children's children shall be able to buy pianos whose sonority and depth of tone shall increase with age, and that thing of beauty, a new Steinway, shall we say, grand, shall indeed be a joy forever, so to speak. Now that's something very interesting. I know that old violins are they can have a great tone and sound and are extremely valued. That I did not know that pianos did not have the same thing, that they can increase. They actually decrease in sound, but violins can continue to be increasing, be more improved in sound as they age, if the materials are good when they were constructed to begin with, of course. That would be interesting to know if nowadays, if there's been any improvement. So as of the recording of this ASMR whisper reading in 2023, and I'm reading about pianos of a book published in 1902, has there been any improvement in all that time in the materials in which a piano is built, so that it lasts longer and maybe increases in value as it ages? What do you think? I hope you enjoyed this little reading I did of pianos, and it's an experiment for me. I do like reading out loud, so I do a variety of the whispers and of soft reading. So I'm going to end this now, and I thank you for listening to this video, and if you went to sleep, I hope you sleep well.